NY MLB Talk, New York's #1 baseball podcast. Now here's your hosts, Chris Pizzaya and Rob Maraska.
Welcome to a new episode of NY MLB Talk. We are your hosts, Rob covering the Mets, myself covering the Yankees. Rob, what's going on?
Chris, neither one of our teams had a great weekend, huh? It was a pretty bad weekend for both the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah, we've had a bad week for both of us, right?
Yes,
both lost both series this past week. Not looking good. Ugly games. Teams that we should have beat didn't beat. Some truths are starting. You know what? After a month of the season, I think you start to see, the teams, how they're starting to shape up, right? Or shape down, whichever way you want to look at it. But we start to see what these teams are lacking, right? Our team and other teams also in the league. So, yeah, we're starting to see our flaws a little bit more is what I'm saying after a month, right? After, a guy gets hot for a week or two, it's like, oh, he's great. But then it's starting to tail off again. So, well, let's start with the Mets. Let's get those guys. Let's hear what you think of the Mets this past week. What happened?
Well, the Mets, the Mets after they swept the Cardinals and the Phillies, you figured they were on a roll, and you were hoping things would just keep rolling, and then they lost the series to Arizona. They tied first Washington. They could have took all 4 games from Washington in Washington, but they ended up splitting that series 2-2, which you can't do. Those are the teams that you have to beat. Arizona, they lost that series. They only won 1 game. They lost 2. And the Cardinals, we saw what happened. They won Friday night's game. It rained on Saturday, and then they blew the doubleheader yesterday, which I'll tell you what the Mets' problem is right now. They leave too many runners in scoring position. That's what their problem is. They could have, yesterday in game 2, they had, in the 8th and 9th, they could have scored, and they just keep leaving runners on base. They're leaving bases loaded. They're leaving, runners on third. They're not consistent like that. And if you remember, after the bad start last year, and when the Mets had the best record in baseball after that, they were winning in the later innings. That's how they were doing it. They weren't worried because you knew they were going to come back. Now they're falling short. And it's not even like they're really getting killed, but they're falling short. And Juan Soto, even though he's starting to hit a little better, he's hitting into hard luck. He's hitting some hard balls, but they're catching him. He was robbed of a home run. But still, he's not the Juan Soto that you saw last year, Chris.
Yeah, I seen a couple of his at-bats. I watched a couple of the Met games. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before he gets going. You could see the timing is there. It's starting to get there. A lot of these ground balls are going to turn into, the line drives and stuff like that. So I think he'll be fine. There's no way this guy's going to be, batting 250 in August, right? So forget that. This guy's going to be fine. He's the least of your worries is what I'm saying. He'll be fine. I know it's frustrating. Trust me. I'd be frustrated too as a Yankee fan. If he'd started off like this last year, I'd be like, why'd we give up, 4 or 5 players for this guy when he's batting 250, right? So I understand the frustration, but you got to just flip over that baseball card of Juan Soto. Just keep your eyes on that because that's what you're going to get. Trust me. He didn't forget to hit, I'm sure some of it is the pressure of the contract and all that, we went over that, but I think that's subsiding. I think now it's just, hey, you know what? Just play ball, right? Just take care of it every day. Do your thing, and it'll be fine. I think it's the rest of – I think the Mets, I think, are the same problem as the Yankees. You're getting a lot from the top of the lineup, but then as you get to the bottom or the middle of the lineup, you're getting a lot of inconsistent at-bats. You're getting a lot of inconsistent batters here, and that's what you're getting. You know what I mean? Like the Yankees are doing the same thing. They're losing games that they shouldn't be losing. We're better than this. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And look, they're both still in first place. All right. The Mets have a 2.5 game lead over the Phillies. Um, they can't win every game, but they
right.
have to win series against the Cardinals. They have to win the series against Washington. That's what they have to do. We know that. And I'm not worried right now. Things are going to gel. And listen, the Mets and the Yankees both had the best players in baseball for the month of April. Pete Alonso was the player of the month for the National League, and look at him. That guy is still hitting. He's been in a hitting machine so far this year.
Yeah.
And, he's going to opt out of this contract, because if he doesn't, anyone who wouldn't opt out of this contract the way he's going, it would be crazy. But
I'll be honest, as a Met fan, if I was a Met fan, I would love to see the GM or the owner get something done before, you know what I mean? Figure out an extension here or whatever, 4 or 5 years, whatever it's going to take. I would just lock him up. I mean, he's proven he wants to be here. He's hitting well. Obviously, he's loving batting behind Juan Soto. You know what? Just get the thing done. Don't get to free agency and go through what you guys went through last year, just get it done. This guy could be a Met for life. Make it happen.
I agree with you. He loves it here. He always wanted to come back. Let's get it done. So let's get it done before, let's get it done before July. Let's not have this hanging over us during the run for the postseason. You're absolutely right, because this year, I'll guarantee you something. If he keeps going the way he's going and the Mets don't try to at least have talks extending his contract, it's not going to be the offseason it was this year. There's going to be teams going after him.
Right. No, I 100% agree. So what do you think of, because you guys lost 2 out of 3 to Arizona. We know the Cardinals are kind of going through something, the rebuild or whatever, right? They're starting to go through something. They're probably going to be busy at the trade deadline, in a couple of months for sure. What do you think of the D-backs? Because they're in, the NL West where, we've been talking about it, right? The top 4 teams are just incredible. What do you think of that team?
Yeah, we talked about this. I think the D-backs have a good team. We thought they would be, they'll be in the run for the wild card, and they probably will be. The Mets had it. That's another thing. The Mets had a chance to win every one of those games, but the Mets just, they left runners on base. It's just, that I think that was just the Mets' problem, that series. But other than that, we said it. I like Arizona. I think the Diamondbacks are going to be there in the wild card race. Listen, that division is so rough, and the Dodgers are back to being the Dodgers, right? They're starting to win again, so that was just a quick little lull. But when you're in a division with the Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants, who were surprised, the Giants were in first place up until when the Dodgers started to become the Dodgers again.
Well, the Dodgers,
you got to remember,
the only thing that's stopping the Dodgers, right, is themselves, right? If they get injured,
right.
And we have seen their pitching, take some hits there this past couple of weeks, so that might catch up to them. But then again, you know what? They got so much pitching depth that they'll be able to, accept those injuries a little easier than your team or my team can, or any other team really. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that's going to stop the Dodgers at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And remember, Mookie Betts wasn't hitting, and
right.
Now Mookie Betts is hitting. So the Dodgers, are going to be the Dodgers. They could afford to have an injury or two, and they're going to be fine. It's the other clubs, but that division is going to be a fun division to watch all season long, I think.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I mean, they've had their injuries. That's the only thing with the Dodgers, right? Tommy Edman went on the IL pretty recently, so they brought up that the Korean guy the Korean young kid that they signed during the offseason. So they'll be fine. That's the team I'm least worried about, as in being really good. Like you said, the Giants were the surprise team. We kind of thought the D-backs and the Padres were going to be okay, but the Giants the Giants are hanging in there. They're getting Flores is having a great season. You're at the X-Men. I mean, he's having a great year. Adames just had his first 2 home run games, so maybe he's going to get going offensively because he's been slumping the first few weeks of the year, obviously. So, so this is going to be – I don't think these 4 teams are going anywhere anytime soon. I think they're going to be good for a while, but we'll see. But now looking ahead with the Mets, all right, you lost the two straight series here. What do you got coming up this week?
Well, Arizona.
Again, at Arizona.
Yeah, they're going to be in Arizona, so late night tonight. We'll see what happens with Arizona, being home and the Mets traveling. The Yankees, too, the schedule's been crazy. Going to the West Coast, going to the East Coast, going home, going home for a series. Going to St. Louis. It's like this schedule, and I think it might be because they have to play all the teams now, but whatever it is, Chris, with the Yankees, the schedule has been crazy.
Yep. Oh, I know. And we got a tough schedule the next couple of weeks for the Yankees. So, well, I'm going to go over it in a few minutes, but
yeah,
you guys got Arizona. What happened with Senga? He was supposed to pitch yesterday. Why did that young kid pitch?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they held him back for a day. They brought the kid in, and obviously the kid wasn't ready. He gave up 6 earned runs.
Yeah.
He didn't. I mean, he didn't look great. He had the jitters, so he's back down already. He was just up for that. And the Mets, and then you saw that the Mets had that bullpen game. So there's things going on with that rotation, and there's some. I don't want to lose this train of thought. I just want to say one other thing. We were talking about Alonso and the Mets. Another thing. What about Acuna? He was rookie of the month. Okay,
right.
He's playing everywhere, and the kid is hitting. I mean, he's part of the bottom of that lineup that is hitting. He's right. Really, I love the guy. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, he's looked great so far, and the great thing is you could put him in. Would you got him at third and second, and he could play short as well, right?
And they have him taking balls in center field too.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. That's a super utility guy. And you know what? Anytime you got a guy who could play multiple positions, that's great, right? Because if someone gets hurt, you could always move him over or whatever. So I think that's great. And he's hitting, 280, 290, right? I mean, and he could steal bases. You can't really ask for more than that from a guy. So I think it's great.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, he was rookie a month in April. He's definitely been a bright spot. Now the Mets after Arizona, they have Chicago, so that's going to be a tough series, and that's going to be a good series. I can't wait to see the Mets play the Cubs and see how they handle the Cubs. So that's what we have going on, and pretty soon we are going to have the Subway Series.
Yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up in a week, so I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, like you said, you got Arizona. You got a couple of tough series this week at Arizona. Then you come home to play the Cubs, and then you got the Pirates, and then you got the Yankees, which is good. You got that 3-game kind of easy. I don't want to call it easy because the Pirates will probably give you a hard time now, but you got the Pirates, kind of easing into before the Subway Series. So I think that's a good thing, to get the pitching in order. Hopefully you don't have any, tough games against Pittsburgh where the bullpen's going to be used, right? So that's the good thing. But yeah, I mean, listen, this team's going to bounce back. I know it's a couple of tough series, but the Mets are they're going to bounce back. They got good pitching. The lineup, like I said, with the Yankees, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's
right.
They had the 2 series this week that they should have won. And I mentioned it last week with Baltimore. I'm like, this is the series that you got. Like, you're playing against a team that is not playing well, right? They're not hitting well. They're not pitching well. Just, you got to take advantage of a team when they're doing this, because you know what? In a couple of months, the Orioles could be doing the complete opposite because they're a good team. But when you got them playing bad, you got to take advantage and take that series easily. And they didn't do it. They lost 2 out of 3 against the Orioles. Didn't pitch well. Again, with the hitting, they're not getting the big hit. They're getting guys on base, and then they're just not getting the hit. Other than Judge and Goldschmidt, the rest of the lineup has been either inconsistent or just non-existent. I'll say it that way. You got guys like you got Austin Wells batting 2-0 something, 205 or something. He does have some home runs, but the rest of the lineup for the Yankees is just not hitting outside of Judge and Austin Wells batting 208. Jazz is hurt. He's going to be out month and a half, maybe 2 months, right? But he was only batting 181 when he was playing. I know he's got the home runs. Volpe 233. He started hitting, and then he messed up his shoulder a little bit. They're hoping to get him back for today, so hopefully he's going to play. Cabrera, he's doing as well as expected at third base. That was a huge mistake, but he's batting 261. Dominguez, he's been kind of I'm not going to say a bust because it's way too early to call him a bust, but he's definitely been a disappointment so far. He's only batting 220. He's had a couple of big hits, but you're kind of expecting more. Grisham was playing great. He's under 300 now. Ben Rice started off great last month, the last week or so. He's been, kind of coming back down to earth, if you want to say it. So the offense is just not there. I mean, Judge is having a ridiculous, like you said, player of the month. He's still batting over 400, which is unbelievable. Batting 423 coming into the next game. 11 home runs, 33 RBIs, leading the league in everything, basically. So, he's our savior right now. But someone else has to start hitting. It can't be just Goldie and Judge, because then they're going to start walking Judge. I still don't know how there's pitching to him. It makes no sense.
I don't know. I know. I'm watching some of the game, and I just can't believe they're not pitching around him. They're pitching to him. And, talking about your pitching too, if you guys don't sign Max Fried, I do not know where you are right now.
We would be below 500 for sure. Without a doubt, we'd be below 500. I mean, that's not even it's not even exaggeration. We'd easily be a below 500 team right now with no shot at the play. Not no shot, but we would be looking really bad, because then Rodon is your number one. Yeah. And then it would be Clark Schmidt, who just came back. He's only pitched 3 times so far. He hasn't looked great yet, but he's got to eventually start picking it up. He does, because listen, like I said, he's only pitched 3 times. So this is going to be his 4th start. So we got to start seeing a better Clark Schmidt that we seen last season, right? So he's got to get going. And then the big hole really is the 4 and 5 starter. I mean, Carlos Carrasco, you and every other Met fan knows how bad he is at this point in his career. Yeah, 10 years ago, he was a pretty good starter. But now, no, he's toast. It's time to move on. I think it's time to DFA the old man. And I think it's time to bring someone up, They picked up Alan Winans from the Braves during the offseason. So far in AAA, he's pitched, I think, 14 innings, no runs in 3 starts and 4 appearances. You know what? You got nothing to lose. Bring him up.
Bring him up is right.
DFA Carrasco if you have to. And Warren, that's the one you got to kind of think about, because I get it. He's one of your top guys, your top prospects. Do you want to keep giving him more rope here and giving him 1 more start or 2 more starts? I don't know how many more starts you could give him, though, until you say, okay, maybe he needs a little bit more seasoning down in AAA, And if you want to keep him up, maybe you want to put him in the bullpen, make him an opener, maybe. Kind of something like that. I don't know. But there's got to be something done. You can't just keep running these guys out there and, and they get bombed early on, or they don't give you 3-4 innings. It's getting ridiculous. So, and it just kills your bullpen. You know that.
Yeah, and the confidence level, it just destroys a young pitcher's confidence level. We know what could happen to a young pitcher in New York. So they have to be careful with that too. Both teams do have things that they have to straighten out. But, so far, it's still first place.
Yeah, they're still hanging on. Both teams. I think the Mets are in a bit – it's weird. Like, the Mets are in a better position, but they're in a little bit tougher, not a little bit, but a lot tougher division compared to the AL East right now. Is a complete mess. I mean, nobody has played really that well, but they also haven't played that bad either. So they're all kind of mixed together. Like, I think the Orioles are only 4 games out, as bad as they've played, or 5 games out. at this point. So, I mean, they're still in it. But the Yankees, like I said, they got a tough schedule coming up. I mean, we lost 2 out of 3 against the Orioles. Then they lost 2 out of 3 against the Rays. That's another series. You got to win that. Like the Yankees are a better team than the Rays. You can't let the Rays come into Yankee Stadium and take 2 out of 3, right? But they did. So it is what it is. So you move on to the next series, which unfortunately now the Yankees got a tough schedule leading up to the Mets series, the Subway Series. They got San Diego at home.
Yeah.
3 games. Then they go out to the West Coast and play the A's in Sacramento for 3 games. And then they go to Seattle for 3. And then they come home for the Subway Series. So, I mean, they come home to play the Mets, right? Yeah.
Yes.
They come home for the Subway Series. So that's a tough run for the Yankees. They're in for a tough run, a tough stretch here for the next 2 weeks. And they got to hope that a guy like Fried continues to pitch well. Rodon has been hot his last couple of starts. They got to hope he continues to pitch well. They got to expect Schmidt to eventually step up and be the guy that he was last year before he got hurt, right? So we got to see a better Clark Schmidt going forward. Then the 4 and 5 starter, I don't know what they're going to do. They got to do something, you know what I mean? And the rest of the lineup, they got to figure it out, right? Because you don't have Jazz here for the next, they said 4 to 6 weeks. So that's a month and a half at the very least, right? So he's gone. They brought up the kid Vivas. He got his first hit and first 2 RBIs yesterday's game. You know what? Let him play second. Just make him the second baseman. Give him some games in a row. Give him 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because you don't have Jazz for a month and a half. Just let the kid play. You know what I mean? Just let him play. Let him settle in. Maybe he could get hot, and then we'll see what happens when Jazz returns. But yeah, I mean, they definitely got problems. This lineup, like I said, is just not good, and they got to figure this out because eventually Judge is going to slow down, right? Judge is not going to hit 420 for the rest of the year. He's going to calm down a little bit. He's still going to hit a bunch of home runs, but listen, he's got to calm down. Goldschmidt, I think he's batting like 340. He's going to come down a little bit. So, you know what? You got to get something else from these guys. Like Austin Wells has to step up. Somebody, Bellinger hit home run yesterday. Let's get him going. He's got to get himself in some kind of a hot streak too. So, and listen, there's nobody coming, right? Because there's no trades. Nobody's selling on May 4th, 5th, wherever we're at right now. So, even the Rockies, as bad as they are, they got 5 wins or whatever they got. They're not selling yet. They don't even sell when they should sell. So they're not selling on May 5th, right?
But why, Chris, I asked you this before. I'm going to ask you again. Why do you think the Atlanta Braves let Fried go? I just don't get it. I mean, why didn't they sign him?
I don't know. I think it was obviously had to do with money, obviously, right? Or else they would have signed him easily. But I think the other reason was they know they got Strider, they got Sale. You got the young kid Smith Scheuer, right? He came up. Bryce Elder. You got a Schwellenbeck. So I think they figured, hey, you know what? We got a decent rotation. We always say you never have enough pitching, right? But when you have to cut corners, like the Braves can't just sign guys like the Yankees or the Mets and just, all right, just give him whatever he wants. Let's get this guy in here. Let's re-sign him. They made the big trade for Chris Sale. He won the Cy Young. He had a great year, was healthy for the first time in years. Can he have back-to-back years where he's healthy for the whole season? I mean, that's a big roll of the dice, right? When you got a really good team. So I don't know. I think it just came down to money, and they figured, hey, we got all these guys. Strider's coming back. You know what? We'll be fine. We'll figure it out. We got this great lineup. Solid bullpen. We'll be good. That's the Braves way, right? They'd rather get rid of the guy a year too soon than a year too late. Like that could go back to the early 90s with how they thought. So, it doesn't make sense to us, but I guess to them it did, and let's see where it gets them.
Yeah, I mean the Braves will be the Braves. We know what happens.
Yeah.
They always come back. They always end up winning. Even though they had the horrible start, they're starting to win now. So, the Braves will be in it. And that division, the National League East is a tough division, like you said. Unlike right now, the American League East, which we thought the American League East was going to be a tough division, but so far they've all just been. No one's running away with it. No one's getting killed. Really, it's just everyone's in the middle there, and everyone right now has a shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jonathan posted one of the comments. I wanted to put this up. Padres going to smash the Yankees tonight. They very much might do that, but I see a lot of Yankee fans, and I hate this, and I'm sure you get it in Met fans, the gloom and doom fans, right? That are automatic, like, oh, we're going to get swept. This is the better team. We're going to lose. We're going to this. We're going to do. You know what? Just sit back and enjoy the ride. The Padres, yeah, they're playing good. I get it. And they're probably the better team right now as we speak. But you know what? They're traveling here, right? Number one. And number two, it doesn't mean they're going to have they're going to play their A game or their best game they're going to play this week, against us. What if the Yankee bats kind of wake up, and they start scoring runs again? And 2 out of the 3 starts, we got Fried and we got Rodon going. So what else? We're kind of set up to go tonight, right? Like Rodon is going tonight. Yeah, Rodon, buckle up. Exactly.
Yes.
But he's been good lately, though. So I'm hoping it's the good Rodon. I always say the good or bad Rodon, right? I'm hoping we have the good Rodon going tonight. He has been pitching good. He has been pitching like the guy that was last year. For the most part, he was good last year. He won 16 games. Once in a while, he gave you the really bad outing that we've seen early on this year. But I think, you know what? Let's see how he does. He's playing against a good team, so I'm sure he's going to be revved up for it. It's going to be on MLB Network, the national game, so I'm sure that has something to do with it too. So we'll see. I'm just not giving up the ship. Listen, we're both complaining here about our teams, but like you said earlier, we're both in first place. Yeah. We're both not perfect. Right? Yeah, we both got injuries here and there. The Yankees, with Jazz now out for another month and a half. Who knows when Stanton is returning? DJ is playing great in AAA, but not expecting him to come and be our savior here. But we may see him sooner than later, right? Because there's definitely a need for a right-handed bat, and I think that's definitely going to be what they're going to go for at the trade deadline, right? It's going to be a right-handed bat. It's probably going to be a third baseman. And it's probably going to be another starter. Even with Hill coming back, I still think they're going to go for another starting pitcher. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to them playing the Padres. It's always going to be a fun series against a good team like that. So I'm sure as hell looking forward to it. And I'm not giving up the ship. Like I said, I don't think they're going to get. Do I think they're going to get bombed? That's a possibility because Rodon is like that, but. I feel pretty good about tonight.
Listen, if Rodon has a bad game, the Yankees and Jonathan's right. The Yankees might get smashed, But if he doesn't, and like you said, he won 16 games last year. If not, then it's going to be a tough game. So we'll have to see what happens. Talking about injuries, I just wanted to bring up the Mets are going to. Danny Young is out for the year and half of next year. He's got to get Tommy John surgery, so that's one of the Mets injuries. And then Jesse Winker, he got hurt, so he's going to be right now. I think he's going to be on the 10-day IL. We'll see what happens with him. And a big one, AJ Minter, left lat strain. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but that one hurts for the Mets. Really, I mean that bullpen really can't afford to lose Minter for a long period of time.
And lat strains are never good. We know that, right? No. That's one of those, they linger. And so hopefully they keep him out a little bit longer. So this way it completely heals, not rush him back or something like that. So but that's never a good thing, Thankfully that's not Tommy John or anything like that. Any surgery. lat strain is usually rest and, wait and see. So, and we said it, their bullpens, was going to be their stronger, out of the pitching was definitely, but so far the rotation's been good. We talk about
Yeah.
Holmes. Holmes pitched decent again, right? Against the Cardinals.
Yeah, listen, I have no complaints about Holmes. We're seeing a Holmes that you didn't see a lot of.
Definitely.
And he's been awesome as a starter. Like we talked about it last week. Maybe that's just it. Maybe he should just be a starter, not in the bullpen. And so far, so good. He just looked really good for the Mets, and I'm happy with Holmes. That was a great signing so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was smart, right? Putting him into the rotation. Maybe, like you said, maybe he's more comfortable there. I mean, I wish the Yankees figured that out before they got rid of him, because having him in the rotation would be a lot better than, Carrasco right now. But, hey, it is what it is. It's good that they found that spot. So like I said, Yankees, Padres, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then the rest of the week is the A's. I'm curious to see how that goes. But the A's have been playing good.
Yeah. Listen, we said that the A's are going to be pretty decent this season, right? We talked about that before, and they have been. So that's not going to be a walk over the A's season, I don't think. I mean, series, I don't think.
The West in both leagues are kind of the opposite, right? Like the NL West, like you said, 4 great teams, and then Colorado, with 6 wins. The other side, the American League West, Seattle is a little bit of a surprise. They're 7 over right now, 500. But then, like everybody else is kind of squashed together. Like the A's and Houston and Texas are all separated by only 2 games. Texas fired their hitting coach. They DFA'd Tavares, their center fielder. They sent down Berger. So they're definitely going through some changes, and hopefully that wakes them up, because DeGrom has been healthy, surprisingly, so far, right? He's been pitching really good. It's crazy how, I hope to see a healthy DeGrom. I'm sure every Met fan would like to see that too, even though he signed with them and everything, but still.
Listen, I'm not going to wish any ill on DeGrom. I hope that he's healthy. I hope he has a great season. I just hope, if the Mets have to play Texas in the World Series, he is not good. But other than that, I don't wish any ill against DeGrom. That's it's over. A whole different team now. Everything's good.
Yeah, I think the contract he signed was so high that I think at the time that we're not going to match that. So
I'm glad they didn't match that. I mean, that would have been ridiculous. Waste of money.
Think about all the injured seasons he's had. He hasn't had a full season in, ever in Texas since he signed it. So, but I think we got to talk about that fan out in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I'm sure everybody's seen the replay of that. The kid just getting up and just jumping over the row, over the
Clemente wall.
Yes, I think he fell 20 feet. It was.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I mean, he's lucky he's young, or else it would have been pretty bad. His girlfriend posted on Instagram, Caven is awake and continue to work toward making his body stronger each day. At this time, he needs rest, peace, prayers, privacy, and all the positive thoughts and energy he could send as he continues on his journey. And so he seems to be doing better,
thank God.
He's awake, he's alert, able to speak. So hopefully, he's going to be okay, obviously. Like we joked around before we came on. If it was somebody our age, a little bit older than this kid, no, I don't think the kid would have survived, or the guy would have survived. I think we would have broke into 20 pieces if we jumped from 20 feet and landed on, dirt.
Yeah, and I mean, when you see the replay of that fall, and just you're right. He's lucky that he's young. So older like that, forget it. First of all, if you survive, you know how many bones you're gonna break. You break your hip, whatever.
Oh,
I mean, what a fall. And we don't know what happened. There's different reports, about why it happened. And some fans are saying one thing and other fans are saying he was all right. And so we don't know what happened, but still, thank God the kid's all right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like when we look at the rest of the rest of the league, like I said, I mentioned Seattle. Seattle's playing really good. 7 over 500 right now, leading the American League West. Texas going through some changes. And then the Central, you got Detroit. Detroit's playing great, and that's another one. The top three right now: Detroit, Cleveland, Kansas City. They're only separated by 3 games.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, a dogfight all season long. I don't think any one of those teams are going to pull away or, drop out. It looks like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I picked Detroit when we were making our picks, so I'm going to stick with that. But look, Detroit has 22 wins, right? Cleveland has 20. Kansas City has 19 wins, so Kansas City's going to be in it all season too. So that's going to be a tough division. I mean, and look, Chicago, the White Sox have 10 wins already, Chris.
I guess they don't want to match what they did last year, so they're trying their best. But that's another team that's probably going to be busy leading up to the trade deadline, right? They got their center fielder Luis Robert,
Yeah,
who's having a really good season. He looks really good. So if I was them, I would trade him sooner than later because he does get hurt a lot too. So I would be worried about that for sure. But yeah, the White Sox are definitely done. Minnesota, they're kind of a team. If they keep playing like they are, below 500 team, they're going to be busy at the deadline, right? They're going to start trading away guys. So, so this is a little different than last year. Last year, like a lot of teams were in it, and it wasn't much. It wasn't that busy at the deadline because so many teams were in it. They didn't want to trade away. They were looking to trade 4 guys. So, so that should be interesting. And then the NL Central, Cubs are in control there, but Cincinnati, Milwaukee, hanging in as best they can. And St. Louis, surprisingly, they're only 5 out of the division there. And then looking at your division, you guys are up on Philly. Philly's only 2.5 back. Then you got Washington, Atlanta. Everybody's waiting for Atlanta to make that run, and they've slowly got better. I think they're back to playing good. But I want to see if can they make that run where like they win 9 out of 10, 15 out of 8, 18, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that's going to depend on their starting pitching and Sale. Did they think he was going to have another Cy Young year? I don't think they thought that, but they thought that he was going to be healthy, and he just hasn't been pitching that great so far.
Yeah, exactly. We put up a poll last week about the Yankees. It's kind of changed a little bit. It started off, the question was, what is your biggest concern for the Yankees going forward? Devin Williams, third base, starting pitching was something else. Starting pitching just barely over something else. And the something else, someone wrote in their offense, the lineup, obviously. And we kind of hit both today with the starting pitching. Obviously, the 4 and 5, they got to figure something out. I know they can't make a move yet, right? We talked about it, but something's got to happen here. How many more starts does Warren get? How many more does Carrasco get until they try something else? Somebody else from AAA. Yarborough has been like that long man out of the bullpen. Does he get a start here? So I'm curious to see what they do. And Devin Williams actually has pitched, I think, 3 since that poll went up, and he actually pitched well. Not in a save situation, but he has pitched okay. So maybe he's turned it around. We'll see what happens. Maybe Alonso didn't break him, like we talked about. Yeah, but I definitely think the the rest of the lineup outside of Goldie and Judge is definitely a problem. We said, and like I said, the rotation, man, that bottom two spots.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that Schmidt's going to step up eventually. I think he's going to be fine. He's another one. You know what? He looked really good last year, so till he got hurt, but I think he'll be fine too.
Yeah, I think so too. I wanted to talk about Ben Rice too for a second. You know, we had all these guys on social media on X saying, you know, he's better than Soto. Give the kid a break. I mean, what are you going to put pressure on him? He's not better than Soto. You're not glad that Soto signed with the Mets. Just enough already. It's still, I can't believe this is still going on in social media. I can't believe it's still, you know, going on. You know, there I see pictures like someone was wearing a Soto jersey and they wrote a Yankee at a Yankee game. They wrote something on it. I can't remember what it is. That they were glad he's gone. All right, he's gone. He hasn't been great for the Mets yet. We know that. But I mean, just worry about your team. You know, it's like we talked about this. Like if you go to a Yankee game and the Yankees are playing Baltimore and you hear people yelling that the Mets suck. Or the same thing with the Mets. You go to a Met game and they're playing the Phillies and you hear people yelling, Yankees suck.
Yeah.
Why?
It happens all the time. It's ridiculous. It is. No, I know. It's so dumb. But listen, fans are going to be fans. We know that. Obviously, and like I said, Rice has kind of slowed down. He's kind of coming down to earth. You know, let's see how he – you know, let's how he goes for the next month, right? We've seen him start off good. He kind of tailed off. Let's see if he can pick it up again. You know, he's going to get the at-bats, right? Because as long as Stanton's out, there's going to be no doubt Rice is going to be in there just about every game. You know, he's going to get the occasional day off. But listen, he's going to get a lot of at-bats. Even when Stanton comes back, if he continues to hit, they'll find at-bats for this guy, right? Whether he catches, plays first, DHs, he's going to get his at-bats at some point. So I'm not so worried about it. That was another talking point a lot of fans were getting into too. Like, you know, Stanton returns, where is he going to play? He'll get his at-bats. Trust me. If you hit, you're going to get your at-bats, right? So
you only need him. You only need him to get his at-bats in the postseason.
Right. Exactly. Just keep Stanton warm until then. You know what I mean? That's all you got to do. Just get him ready for the playoffs, right? That's all you got to worry about. You know,
now go ahead.
No, I was going to say, he's not going to play every day when he comes back.
No.
You know, like you said, they just want to keep him healthy. So you're not going to see this guy play every game. So when you're playing against a tough righty, yeah, you're going to see Rice, you know, DH, or you'll see someone else DH and he'll play first, or he'll catch. He could play a couple of positions. Stan's the guy that, you know, is hard to find spots for because he can only DH, you know, so.
Yeah, everything will be fine. Now, I just wanted to bring up something with the Subway Series pretty close. I think we're gonna do a show, and you know, if anyone wants to come on as a panel, we'll have a couple of Yankee fans and a couple of Met fans. Just get in touch with us, right, Chris? Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, you got our Twitter names right there. Just give us a follow, send us a message, a private message, and you know, we'll set it up. We'll set up a date. We could all get together. We'll Yankee fans, Met fans arguing at each other. That's fine. You could get us at NYMLB Talk. Rob is at R Maraska. Myself, I'm at CP7NY. Just let us know if you want to join us. We're more than welcome to having you guys on the show, talking about Yankees, Mets, even if you're not a Yankee or a Met fan, if you want to come on and chat. You know, we already had an Orioles fan on.
Yeah.
You know,
and a national fan.
So.
Yeah. We had Rick Lewis on, a national fan. So you know.
We're open to everybody, you know. New York fans are not all mean people. So we're trying to break the mold, Rob.
Yeah, I know. Hey, and that's why we're NYMLB Talk, because
that's it.
We got the MLB in there too. So if you're whatever team, you know, we'll talk baseball with anyone about any team. We don't care.
Definitely. And also, if you got nothing else, Rob, I just want to say we're going to put up a poll probably each week different kind of poll, Yankee, Mets, whatever. We'll put it up and then we'll discuss it on our next show on Monday. So look out for that poll this week. We'll put it up by the end of the day, and and we'll see what reaction we get. But what else you got? Anything, Rob? Before we
No,
go?
that sounds good. Once again, Chris, another excellent show. I love talking baseball with you. It's
Same here,
great.
man. Always. Baseball's an easy discussion. Unlike some other topics that are out there in the world, definitely baseball is one that we can all talk and get along, and it's pretty easy. So, but anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Definitely.